It's almost a square canvas, which is so Instagram in some ways.
So Instagram.
So Instagram. It's one of the most tranquil paintings, I think. A lot of people are drawn to it because it makes them feel very calm. One of the things that we forget about Monet was how radical he was for his time. He really encouraged people in his school of the Impressionists to paint outdoors, which was completely different to the training of painting in studios that most artists were receiving at the time.
The nature of Impressionism is that you're painting a subjective approach. So this isn't an attempt to create a super realistic, supernaturalistic version of real life. This is Monet's perspective on water, Monet's perspective on light. And actually one of the things that changes art is, as you say, deeply radical.
And even the composition really reminds me of, contemporary images. It's almost a square canvas, which is so Instagram in some ways.
So Instagram.
So Instagram. But, the Impressionists were taking a lot of inspiration from photography. This interest in light and framing from the perspective of a lens was so radical for the time.
I think you're absolutely right, because we look at the painting, we think about how light is playing on water, how light is playing on leaf pads and lily pads. We think about the bridge as this arcing device that holds the painting in place, that frames the painting. How do you think Monet was a disruptor of his time?
He was encouraging other artists like him to go out and paint outdoors. Even some of his paintings, you can see dirt and leaves in the paint, which is, totally different from academic painting.
The critics didn't like it.
No, not at first, no. It took quite a few decades, maybe even a century, for it to really catch on.
Right now, looking back at these works, there's scandalous quality. This thing of not painting with convention, not painting with naturalism. This is a deeply modern way of thinking about life and landscape simultaneously.
It also reminds me a lot of the radical shift that took place when we started getting cameras on our own phones. Anyone can take and then publish a photo themselves, and I think this is always what Monet always reminds me of.
What do you think Impressionism's impact on the 21st century is?
Impressionism today to us means an appreciation of the natural world.
It's an interesting thought. If you go back to the 19th century, when Monet's painting water lilies, in a way you can see this almost as a response to early photography to say, actually, look, the artist's eye and what an artist can do, in fact, can still stretch further than what a camera can see. The challenge that Monet offers, which I think is still relevant to today, is what do you see and how can you capture that with the delicacy, with the intimacy, with the emotional engagement that allows all of us to look at it again, to see the world renewed through your eyes.